Test.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Test, test.
That's a good place for Troy. Leave him outside. Don't spit at me, Steve. No spit.
All right, we'll go ahead and get this city council meeting started. Today is Tuesday, October 26th, 2021, and it is 6 p.m. Where this is going to be a regular city council meeting of the Lake Stevens City Council, and there will be two ways to participate this evening. You can either join by Zoom or here in person at the Sawyer's Room at the Mill Building. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. City Clerk, we get a roll call.
Councilmember Doxxing,
Here.
Councilmember Peter Shagan,
Present.
Councilmember Frederick,
Here.
Councilmember Dickinson. Here. Councilmember Jorstad. Present. Councilmember Ewing,
Present.
Councilmember Tadgett.
Present.
Great. And so with that, we get an approval of the agenda.
Okay, council, we have an agenda before you. I would like to make a recommendation to a change from the discussion item on the ARPA funds to an action item. I believe that we can get through that and get an action done tonight. And it is a little bit time sensitive on a couple of things, so we would like to move that to an action. Is there any other people that would like to make a change to any of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda with the movement of discussion item K to action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passed unanimously. You have an agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you, Council President. So with that, we'll move into citizen comments. And since we're in a hybrid meeting, we are gonna do one, we've got a couple of signups to do citizens comments here at the present meeting. And then City Clerk Chellon, if you would take a look in the attendees area to see if there's anybody with their hand raised in that area who would like to provide citizens comments, we'll do that as well. So with that, we will provide 3 minutes to citizens to provide comments to the city council. And we'll go ahead and go with those who are present. And I think Sofina Nunez, if you want to take the podium, you are the inauguration of the podium for this new city council chambers. You have 3 minutes.
Great. Hi, I'm Sofina Nunez. Some of you know me. As you're all aware, the new Macy building and the additional social services that we will be providing has an update that I'm going to give to you all today. Also, a request. So we're just wrapping up the first phase of our building, which we call Site 2, which included all of the basically what I call dirt. Can you hear me now? So by the end of this phase, which will be done in about 2 weeks, we're going to have a completely even parking lot, which will be paved. All of the utilities, electrical things for sidelights will be ran, and we will be ready to begin our phase 2, which is vertical. So it's really exciting. The vertical build is budgeted at approximately $2.2 million. Today, we have raised as a community $553,129 in cash in some grant donations. I'd like to send a huge shout out to this community, our citizens, local businesses, leaders, and building partners, because we could not have done any of this without all of you. Thanks to Sam Lowe and the County Council, an additional $600,000 has been pledged from Snohomish County. A huge thank you to this entire community, including Senator Steve Hobbs, Representative John Lovick, April Berg, Mayor Brett Haley, our city council members, past Mayor John Spencer, and other community members who took the time to blast the council with emails or testimony showing support for this great community project. I'm honored to be a part of this town. We received a grant in the amount of $48,000 from the WSDA for the mechanical portion of their freezer refrigeration unit. And we are working with the Lake Stevens Rotary to fund the box portion of this unit. We are also working on grants from the Tulalip tribe for the job training / computer lab that we're going to be installing. And then for the Everett Clinic Foundation, we're trying to see if they'll give us a grant for the emergency medical room. We will continue to fundraise for this building, including our empty goals, which we'll be doing here in about 2 weeks. November 6th from 4 to 8. So I am inviting all of you, please come. It'll be amazing. I'm here to ask for your continued partnership and specifically for the council to provide funding in the amount of $500,000 for this crucial facility. Allocation of these funds will leave us with the manageable $435,871 left to raise. I hope that we have shown that we're not afraid of hard work and stop at nothing to raise the rest of this funds to complete this building and to provide a long overdue and much needed human services to this community. We plan to begin vertical construction on April 1st. We have demonstrated history of good stewardship of community funds and have dramatically reduced costs through in-kind donations and partnerships. We are incredibly grateful to Jack from Cornerstone Construction, who is working diligently with me for free to coordinate construction and meet all of the requirements from prevailing wage to permitting and inspections to get this done. Others in the community are also working for free at a dramatically reduced price, to make this vision a reality. Thank you to the developers, contractors, consultants, and others for your continued commitment to this. We couldn't accomplish this without your donated assistance, work, and advocacy. Our intention is to be operating from this building by the fall of 2022, providing amazing services to meet the needs of the community members in the collaboration with the Volunteers of America by next holiday season. The support of this council and community is amazing, and we're truly grateful for your help.
Thank you. And Doug Warren.
Thank you, Council. My name is Doug Warren. I'm a local financial advisor here in the community. I started volunteering at the food bank 8 years ago. On a weekly basis, I would go there and volunteer. And 5 years ago, I became the president of the food bank. And at the end of February, my presidency will be over, and actually Sophia will take over as the president of the food bank. In that time, I've seen so much growth of the need of the food bank. It's just been amazing growth, even pre-COVID. Now we're talking pre-COVID, during COVID, right? But even pre-COVID, we had so much growth and need. Due to that growth, we now serve 5 days a week out of 5 different churches. The current church that the food bank is at does not allow us to serve more than 1 day a week, but the need is so much greater than 1 day a week. We also store our food supply at an offsite location that we rent from the city, as you know. So a number of years ago, I sat down with former Mayor Spencer, and we drew up a concept on a napkin contest. Lake Stevens had recently lost the family center, and we knew that that need must also be met. This new building will do so much more than just help families with food. There will be a teaching kitchen to teach our clients how to make nutritious food with the food that we supply. There will be a space for social services to house the family center to be able to live and operate out of a small section of the church. The Lake Stevens Veterans Commission that was formed in 2017 will provide services to veterans housed in that building. There will be a room set to provide medical and dental services to our clients, technology room to allow people to use computers, to do resumes, etc. And then with the new fire department next door, eventually, that location will be able to serve as a disaster relief center should we ever have that need in our area, which there currently is nothing in this area to be able to provide that type of need. Each month, there are approximately 200 volunteers that give over 1,000 hours of service to the food bank. That alone provides so much for our community members. This facility would be something that we can all be proud of as a resource for our community, and even as a community gathering place. I just thank you for your support and your consideration.
Thank you. So with that, do we have any folks in the online who
We
wish to
do.
provide city?
We
citizens'
have
comments?
one, Steve Corsi, and he's coming in right now.
All right, let's bring Steve in.
Right.
Steve, hey, Steve Corsi, you have the floor for 3 minutes, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Daley. It was kind of hard to tell because we were rejoining, so my apologies. I just want to thank all of you, thank the city council and you, Mayor, for the opportunity to come before you and ask for your support for the Lake Stevens Food Bank. I'm Steve Corsi with Volunteers of America, Western Washington. And you may know us and you may not, but we operate 3 community resource centers across the region. We have one in Lake Stevens, a small one at the Lake Church that we provide service out of for indigent people or people who are underprivileged or in need, those most in need and those most vulnerable. We also have one in Arlington and we also have one in Sultan. We've been working with the Lake Stevens Food Bank for quite a while, for probably a good year. I think that's probably about right, maybe a little over a year. And you, as well as I, know that the population in the Puget Sound region is growing by leaps and bounds. It's growing a lot. That increase in the population, along with the increase in the needs due to real estate prices and lack of affordable housing, whether those are rentals or purchase properties, really, I think, make the need for not only the food bank, but the social services that would go along with that in a community resource center critical for the Lake Stevens area and the growth that Lake Stevens is experiencing. On top of that, we had the needs due to COVID-related, what I would say is COVID-related economic deterioration. And by that, I would refer to the hyperinflation that we're beginning to experience over the last couple of months, along with the unemployment that we've experienced prior to that, and that we're still not back to normal levels on. And we know that the needs continue to grow and grow for people in the community. I mentioned we're currently using the space in a small space in Lake Church, but that space is going to go away. Lake Church is expanding and adding other services or programming. I'm not sure which, I forget, but that space for us is going to go away. And our intent is that once the Lake Stevens Food Bank is completely finished, that we will occupy about 1,500 square feet in there for a community resource center to provide those services to the Lake Stevens community. So I would implore you, as did Sofina and Doug, for your support for an additional $500,000 from the City Council and the people of Lake Stevens to support the food bank. Thank you very much for having us.
All right, thank you, Steve. Do we have anybody else?
I do not see anybody else, Mayor.
Okay, great. And just so, since the 3 speakers spoke about using ARPA money for the food bank, that is going to be coming up on agenda item K, which has been moved to an action item. So appreciate your testimony for it. With that, City Council President, Council Business.
All right, let's go for council business. Let's start on my right with Councilmember Tadger.
It's been busy last week. Today I attended the, so many things. The Sewer Utility Committee meeting. Got an update on their comprehensive plan. And I think there's a lot of work for us in the sewer district to work together on, as they're going to have a lot of needs coming forward. So hopefully our staff are working great with them, and hopefully we can iron out a lot of things and get our sewer district issues squared away. So that way we can make our community keep moving forward.
Councilmember Georgetown.
Thank you. How about that harvest market? That was pretty exciting. It was great to see just so many families, and great to see the rain hold off, and just excited that we get to support continued opportunities for our community. I feel really fortunate to have that here. So I was happy to attend. That's it for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Peter Sagan.
Yes, I also attended the utility committee today with the sewer district, and as Councilmember Tangent explained, they're in the process of updating their comprehensive plan, which is the basis for their potential new charges. So my guess is the fees will probably be increasing with all the needs that they discussed that are upcoming, but nonetheless, they provide a very significant service for our community. In addition, on Saturday, after attending the market here, I spent about an hour and a half with the museum folks over. They were had their doors open and met and discussed and reviewed some of their plans that they have for the facility that will sit kind of to our behind us and to our left at a future time. And it was great to see the history of Lake Stevens. They've got a lot of stuff over there, and they are willing and proud to display it. So some of the things that they have planned are, I think the community is going to be overjoyed with, to bring back some of the history that's taken place here. So I think they're a great asset for our community, and they're going to be stepping forward and making this place even better than it is. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ewing.
I'd like to thank those who spoke on behalf of the food bank. And there is a fundraiser, I believe, tomorrow at Mod Pizza from open to close for all that want to participate there. 20% of the proceeds will go to the food bank. And so they've generously, as you know, Mod Pizza is supporting our community there. So I'd like to encourage those who are listening who like pizza, which include most of us, to go help out with that. And I hope you'll bear with me in a personal indulgence here. So this is the end of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Some of you know that my wife's younger sister has breast cancer, is undergoing chemo, and actually has surgery scheduled for next week. So I just want to thank those who have been patient and kind and understanding to me and my family as we've gone through this. And I'd also like to thank the mayor for being aware of Breast Cancer Awareness Month and also infant loss. My sister-in-law lost her oldest child to childhood cancer. And so, you know, this has impacted our family pretty significantly and still does. So the youth council attended the meeting with Councilmember Daughtry and Frederick. And I'm just, as a father of 3 teenagers, I am very, I would welcome each one of them as one of my children. They are just extraordinary young people, and their level of compassion and willingness to serve is unrivaled in our community. And so I want to thank those within our community that are supporting them and encouraging them, helping them be successful. I'm just so impressed with their unity, their focus, and their desire to do good. And I'll close with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sean. Frederick.
I'll make it easy for you. The Saints fan in the room.
Can you turn this mic off, please?
So I'd like to move for adjournment.
I attended the youth council meeting, as Councilmember Ewing mentioned, along with Councilmember Daughtry. The one thing I would add about the youth council is, you know, often groups get together and start down a road with great intentions of doing a body of work. But I think one of the most impressive things with this group of youth is their commitment to set up the group for continued success after they're gone. They're actively putting a lot of effort into their succession planning and how do they continue to have a youth council long after they've all graduated from high school and gone on to do great things. So that's been very impressive to watch. The other thing I would share is, if you have been following the news, you will know that after 7 weeks of declining rates of COVID, we have suddenly seen a resurgence in cases this week. So just want to remind everybody that we're not through this just yet. We're approaching flu season. So be dutiful, be cautious, make good decisions in all the things that you do. Certainly not telling you not to do anything, but be smart about it. So I would just share that.
Councilmember Dickinson.
Thank you. I helped the Friends of the Library set up the book nook over here at our temporary library. It was a lot of fun. And so if you want to get a slightly used book and help the library, go on down there and see what's out there. I attended the Washington City's Insurance Authority meeting today, and Mr. Brazel was there as well. It blew my mind. It was very interesting, and I learned much about current legislation and how it is impacting our police and how to address it. The great goals we have are transparency, accountability, and to restore public trust. Those are huge goals. I also attended the library board meeting, and our new president, or chair rather, of the library board is Abe Martinez, and Melissa Mafaro will be the secretary. So it's exciting times for them, and I know that Shaylin is grateful to be able to step back and just be busy in other ways. I visited the Volunteers of America on Friday. Thank you, Councilmember Jorstad, for reminding me. It was wonderful. I'm so glad they have a spot to work. And thank you, Councilmember Daughtry, for making that happen, I believe, until August of 2022. So hearing the food bank group be so positive was very encouraging. I met Tina Mandela on Sunday because I got a bag of goodies from someone named Watermelon Wilma. Do you know her possibly? She gave me stuffed animals and puzzles and all this. And when I turned it into the VOA over there, Tina Mandela, yeah, that's her name. She was so excited, especially because it came from Watermelon Wilma. So it was very positive, all these things. Finally, in spite of it being Sunday, I have to do a shout out. The blustery weather caused a boat to get hung up out here against a fence. And a friend called me and said, and there's a bathroom door banging away. And so then I called Councilmember Daughtry for some help. He says, call the police with a non-emergency. And so Sergeant Valvik went out there right away. He called me and told me he was on his way. And Aaron Halverson also stepped up with the public works guys to check out what was going on in the bathroom door. So I just want to say our staff works so hard, even on a Sunday afternoon, and I much appreciate that. And I don't know if I'm done, but I do think it's time for me to get quiet. Thank you very much.
All right, I've got something a little sad to talk about. We have to be really careful when we are talking to people on Facebook or any place else. You need to be watching out for our neighbors. On Sunday, my wife happened to catch a lady on Facebook that was in crisis. I don't know how she did it, but she did. She got her over onto private messenger and found out that she had a 46-year-old son that was a Navy veteran who was in crisis and trying to kill himself. So we reached out to 911 right away. She kept talking to the person. I was talking to 911. Got him over there, got him taken care of, got them both safe. But we really need to be watching out for what's going on out there with your neighbors. Just be careful. People are asking for help, and sometimes we don't see it. Keep your eyes and ears open. Okay.
Thank you, Council President. Good words. I've had a lot going on last couple of weeks. I would say to this council, we're very blessed to have a great staff to work with and have do great work for us. We've had some new hires that have just absolutely jumped in. There's been no crawl walk. It's just been straight run for them, and they've stepped up and are doing a great job. And as well as we've had some people moving into positions that have just completely stepped in and moving forward. You can absolutely be proud of them, as I am. Today, we had a great meeting, a great software summit, in which we just had a facilitation of all the different software programs we're using in the city, where we can, where we have not necessarily duplicating efforts, but maybe redundant efforts, and being able to see where we can compile them. And part of that discussion, as you all know, is finding that GIS enterprise system. And I think we found a good one. We're going to go through some RFP processes. But I think what really came out of that meeting was a good understanding of where we are as a staff and as a city and where we need to go. And I'm very optimistic about where we're headed in the future as far as getting our policies, our procedures moving in the right direction. So with that, I would like to conclude my portion of mayor's business by, we had a young couple reach out to us a couple weeks ago, and I spoke with them, reference recent loss that they had of an infant, and they asked that we read this proclamation. I was able to, on the 15th of October, join them in lighting a candle to recognize the losses of infants and babies in our society. And so if you would indulge me, I'd like to just read this proclamation real quick. Whereas the 15th day of October is recognized in parts of the United States and in many other jurisdictions around the world as a day of remembrance and awareness of pregnancy and infant loss. Whereas Lake Stevens wishes to acknowledge the profound grief experienced by families who suffer the death of a baby. Whereas increased awareness of the causes and impacts surrounding pregnancy and infant loss may lead to greater understanding, support, and resources in communities across the nation. Whereas promoting awareness of the challenges faced by those parents and families in a positive means of establishing support and understanding. Now, therefore, I, Brett Gailey, Mayor of the City of Lake Stevens, do hereby proclaim October 2021 as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month in the City of Lake Stevens, and encourage parents, caregivers, and all residents to become educated in opportunities to prevent pregnancy and infant loss and support bereaved families when prevention is not possible. Important topic. I think we can all reflect either in our personal lives or in the lives of those close to us who've lost an infant or during a pregnancy. So I appreciate your time on that. And with that, we will move to direct reports. I think we have a report from Acting Public Works Director Aaron Halverson. He's online.
Yep.
Okay, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Fantastic. I will keep this brief. I'm trying to share video, but it doesn't look like it's working on my end.
Okay, Aaron, can you hold on. Aaron, can you hold on? We need to go louder.
Yeah. Here we go.
Right, speak a little louder, Aaron.
Okay, can you hear me now?
A little
Yes.
better. Yep.
Okay, I'll do my best. You've already touched on some of the things that I was going to share tonight. So I'll start from the top and I'll keep it brief. We have a fall cleanup scheduled for November 6th. The Public Works and Waste Management are working to host. We're going to put some flyers out and to make sure that the community is aware of this event. We had a weather event over the weekend. Mary mentioned Public Works responded and is still responding to and cleaning up, just in terms of getting leaves and debris out of the streets, removing branches that are in trees and on the ground, and just generally cleaning up after a storm like they usually do. We're carefully watching and monitoring the Costco project. We've got inspectors out there every day watching stormwater issues and construction issues and keeping track of that project. And last, Public Works assisted at the Harvest Market event this last Saturday and filled all necessary shifts. And I think that event went well. That's all I have.
All right, Aaron, appreciate it. Good work. So with that, let's go to guest business. We're going to go to item B and have a presentation from WASDOT on the SR 9204 project.
So they are on the line with us. Aaron, I wasn't sure if you were going to do an intro, but the WASDOT folks are with us.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
So, hang on. WashDOT has been working on the SR 9204 improvements for several years. Phase 1 is generally completed, and Phase 2 recently began and is ongoing. WashDOT is here tonight to give you all an update on the project, an overview of the project, share some information about scheduling and where they currently are, and then also introduce Phase 3 and discuss that as well, just to keep the council briefed on what's happening at this critical intersection in Lake Stevens. With that, I'll hand it off to WashDOT.
Thank you, Aaron. Good evening, everyone. This is Tess Abraha. I'm assistant project engineer with WashDOT, and I have with me Chango Delay, the project engineer. Chango, you can introduce yourself.
Good evening, council members. My name is Chango Delay. I work with Tess. I'm the project engineer for this subject project.
And also I have with me Diana Barito, our communication personnel. Diana. Okay. So I will share my screen. We are here, like Aaron said, we are here to provide you project update on the SR9, SR204 intersection improvement project. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. This is the preferred alternative exhibit, just to help you orient yourself with the layout. To the right is north, and these are the roundabout 9204 roundabout, as well as the new 9 Vernon Road roundabout, and smaller roundabouts to the east and to the west of Highway 9. First, though, we want to start by reminding you of all the overall improvement, which include widening the highway to the south, adding turn pockets, and the 4 roundabouts. To refresh your memories, we held 11 stakeholder advisory group meetings and 5 public open houses prior to selecting this alternative. Originally, we planned on a grade separated alternative, but the groundwater level is too high to build that alternative within our available funding. So we determined that installing roundabouts will meet the project need to reduce travel time for all modes within this area, improve access and maintain visibility to businesses, shorten regional travel times, and lower the fatal and serious crash rates from 1 to 0. Our stakeholders advisory group members endorsed this alternative. Some of the benefits of this preferred alternative, we call it the roundabout alternative, includes it diffuse traffic by providing multiple options to access the highway. It provides direct entry and exit at the SR9, SR2 project, which is more of a defined traditional intersection rather than the existing one. It provides greater east-west connectivity by adding this additional east-west link at this location at 9 Vernon Road intersection. Also, it's roundabouts are good for traffic calming. Naturally, it reduces the speed of vehicles approaching the roundabouts, which helps in avoiding severe accidents in the vicinity of the intersection. Additionally, roundabouts, it's helpful for continuous flow through the intersection during off-peak hours. Like whereas signal, you have to stop, even though traffic is not that much out there. So, and also the benefits of roundabout is it helps to lower maintenance and operation costs. So for a quicker construction of the overall improvements to the community, we divided the project into 3 stages depending on the length of time needed for acquiring environmental permits and also right-of-way acquisition. So the one which you are looking here, stage 1, this red triangle, it's like Aaron early mentioned, it's completed in 2019, and that included adding southbound additional lane south of Market, also converting the dedicated right turn lane into right turn as well as through lane, and also it constructs stormwater and planting associated with the improvement. Then this is stage 2. Stage 2 is currently under construction. Probably you saw it out there. Construction is ongoing, and this stage improves, or it constructs in northbound lane through the Market intersection. It adds a right turn pocket from westbound Market into northbound SR9. Also adds a right turn lane from SR9 into 4th Street Northeast that provides southern access to the Frontier Village, as well as people who are traveling to the east side of this area. Additionally, this stage adds it converts back the right turn and through lane, the existing right turn and through lane, into a through lane only, and it adds a dedicated right turn lane northbound to westbound Marketplace. In addition, it constructs a sidewalk for pedestrian and bicyclists from Marketplace to 4th Street Northeast. And also it constructs a landscape and associated stormwater facilities. This is stage 3, which is the biggest portion of the project. And currently we are preparing contract plans to advertise it early next year for construction. This stage includes construction of the 2 roundabouts, two-lane roundabouts, one at the 9204 intersection and the other one at 9 and Vernon Road. In addition, it constructs a smaller roundabout here that provides the east-west connectivity with the Highway 9. In addition, this project converts the two-way stop intersection, the current two-way stop intersection, into a roundabout. This portion also constructs sidewalk from 4th Street Northeast all the way to Davis Road. And the sidewalks are like 8 to 10 feet wide. It provides access to pedestrians as well as bicyclists. In addition, it constructs stormwater facility and landscape associated with this portion of the project. Okay, like I said earlier, stage 2 construction is in progress. So in the following couple of slides, we want to update you the current construction status. So this construction started on June 14 of this year. And so far they built the northbound SR9 and also the turn pocket to 4th Street Northeast. However, if they haven't paved the top 0.15 feet, the top weiring course yet. Also, they installed the storm sewer piping, so it's functioning now. City Pond, which is the which is located at the northeast of Market and SR9, is completed. Also, noise wall areas, the stage 2 is constructing noise wall south of Market on east side of the east and west side of the highway between Market and 4th Street Southeast. So what's left on stage 2? They will be building up right turn pockets. This is the right turn pockets from Market to northbound, SR9 northbound. They will drill noise walls shafts to install foundation. They will also mill and pave the weiring course, the top course, throughout the project limit. Also, they will be installing temporary irrigation system, remove existing and install new signal system at Market, SR9 and Marketplace intersection. Also install the noise wall panels. So for the paving work, now we are into, usually the pavement work is between April and up to end of October. Since now we are moving towards the, we are already almost into the wet season. So there will not be any paving work. So the paving work will be continue, and they will be completing it in the spring of 2022. However, they will continue working on the noise walls, like drilling shafts and installing foundation stuff. So this is construction management for stage 3. As I have mentioned it earlier, we are preparing contract documents of stage 3 that includes traffic management strategy during construction. So we'd like to share with you the traffic control strategy we will be implementing to construct stage 3. So this is the stage 3 line work. The previous exhibit is more of cartoonish, more of generic view, but this is the line work itself. So as shown, this is State Route 204, and this one is State Route 9, northeast to the right side of screen. So these are the two roundabouts, 2-lane roundabouts, one at the 204 intersection, and the other one is at Vernon Road intersection. And these are the smaller roundabouts. One is here on the east side and the other on the west side. Both these smaller roundabouts, vehicles, they can drive over them. Whereas these big roundabouts will have some planting inside. Actually, this one will have a gateway sign for City of Lake Stevens, also some planting, and this will have some green areas as well. Okay, so we looked at linear, which is closing to construct this stage 3 project. We looked at linear or closing like 1 lane or 2 lane and shift traffic to the other side, build half portion, then bring back the traffic to the other side. We looked at that option as well as the full closure option. You just close the work area for 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and finish the work and get out, get in and get out approach. As some people call it, the band-aid rip-off approach. So we looked at both approach. We analyzed the pros and cons of the two strategies, shared it with city engineers as well as business community in City of Lake Stevens in business forum format. So based on the analysis and feedback we got, the full closure alternative is the preferred strategy. So I will go through some of the benefits of the full closure. Like I said earlier, full closure means closing it for 4 days and get the job done and go out kind of approach. So the benefit of that full closure approach is like the project, the stage 3 project can be completed in 1 construction season rather than 2 or more. So the impact to the traveling public as well as the business will be less than the linear traffic control approach. Also, there will be 3 full closures, 3 in non-consecutive closures, and those closures, those weekends will be on non-holiday and non-event in the vicinity of City of Lake Stevens. So the closures will not be on holiday weekends or eventful weekends. And the 3 full closures will be 1 to construct the Davis-Vernon intersection roundabout, the other one to construct the 9 Vernon Road, and the third one to construct the 9204 roundabout. So during those closures, the other benefit is, except during those closures, traffic will be maintained on SR9 and SR204, also on city streets that will not be impacted by the construction. And also, this approach will have less disruption to business accesses. So here is an illustration of the first closure. So this is a layout that shows closure to construct the Davis-Vernon roundabout. I hope you guys can see my cursor here. So orange is construction activity in that area, and purple is on those area construction already completed, as well as gray is like unimpacted roadway. So traffic will be on the gray area. It's unimpacted, so traffic can be maintained on those area. So the purple areas, those construction activity can be done by closing shoulder, or for example, in the case of the 91st and Vernon Road intersection, those construction can be done during night with using flaggers, like you keep one lane open and work on the other one, since they don't require a major reconstruction of the intersection. So those can be happen without closing the whole roadway. Whereas where we see the Davis Vernon Road intersection, since there is currently there is about 5 feet grade difference from Vernon Road to SR9, so there will be grading, excavating that's 5 feet. So it's a major construction. So we'll close the roadway for 4 days and get it done and get it out. So during that construction, here is an illustration that shows how traffic will detour or will go from one point to the other point. So the red one here is the closure to construct the Davis Road. So the business along Davis Road, they will have local access. So their business can be accessed during during this closure. And here are multiple routes how people get from point A to point B, from one point to the other. For example, if we see people who are living on along this roadway on Vernon Road, if they want to come to Frontier Village, they have to go northbound, then make a left onto Lundin Parkway, make another left, go southbound on SR9 and access Frontier Village through here. Or if they want to go to south part of this area, they will continue, make a left at Marketplace and come to this area. People who are living east of the highway around the North Davis Road, if they want to access the highway either to the west or south, or for that matter north, they can come back on the back road, North Davis Road, then make a right turn, Market, and access the highway through here. So we'll have all those detours signed during construction. The second closure, like I said, there are 3 closures. The second closure will be to construct the 9 Vernon roundabouts. So during this closure, already the Davis Road is constructed and it's completed, will be open for traffic. the only leg that will not be open would be the west leg, since we have to complete the roundabout before we open it to traffic. So people who are living in this area, they would use this intersection the same way that they are using today. So it will be the same thing. The traffic will be closed, for people who are coming from north, will be closing traffic at the Lundin Parkway on this side. Also from south side, we'll be closing it at 9204 intersection. Again, here, the purple is completed construction and yellow is construction will be going on. So the detour for that closure here. So for example, people, same thing like earlier, people who are living in this, people who live in this area, to access the highway, they would do the same thing. Like they would access it through what they are doing today. But let's say somebody's coming from north side and wants to go Frontier Village. Now they have to go to Lundin Parkway and go through here, make a left SR204 and come to this area. Or they have to come on Lundin Parkway to the east, use the back road and access. Usually the local peoples would do, this detour to come to Frontier Village. But people who are coming from north and want to continue to the south, they would use the Lundin Parkway and follow this blue line here. And Frontier Village will be accessed for people who are coming on eastbound on 204. They will access it the same way today. So but if they want to go to north, they have to go through Lundin Parkway here. Also, people who are coming from southbound, same thing. If they want to access this area, they have to make left here and come to this area. Or if they are continuing to north, they would follow this roadway. The third and last closure would be to construct the 9204 intersection. By this time, the 9 Vernon roundabout is completed. This one is completed. So the road will be closed like east of 91st Avenue at this location. Here, a little bit north of 4th Street southeast. So still people will be able to access the Frontier Village from south. Also, they can exit, since the entrance from 9204 intersection will be closed, they can access, they can go northbound via Davis exit or entrance from Frontier Village. They go through this mini roundabout and go to north or go to west. The detour for that closure will be like this. So people from Frontier Village, they can exit through 4th Street Northeast or exit through Davis and access, use the 9 Vernon roundabout and go to northbound, as well as they can use the new Vernon Road and go to 91st and continue on SR204. Or they can keep coming on Vernon Road, make a left here, make a right, go to west side of Lake Stevens. For all these closures, we'll have a robust public outreach to encourage people. We want to reduce the amount of traffic just passing by city of Lake Stevens. People who are passing through Lake Stevens to go way south of Lake Stevens. We encourage, with the public outreach, we encourage them to take the 528, then go to I-5, use I-5 US2 as much as possible. Same thing, people who are coming south to use US2 than I-5 rather than coming through this area. So there will be a lot of public outreach to reduce the amount of traffic to come to this area during those closure time, during those full closures, which is the Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, for those 3 full closure period. Upcoming outreach event, like I said, we are advertising this project early. We are planning to advertise this project early next year. So we'll be, before we construct these roundabouts and open it to the public, we'll be outreaching the community to educate how to use a 2-lane roundabouts. Here are the information. Diana and myself, we are the contact for the stage 3 project, whereas Joe is contact for the stage 2 construction. So do not hesitate to contact us. If you need, if you have any question, you can call us or send us email. So also here is a project website. We'll keep the project website updated. So you can visit our website as well. With that, I will open it for questions.
All right, you have any questions on the presentation? We appreciate the presentation. This is obviously a very, very complicated, multifaceted project, and we appreciate the time that's been spent several years on the design and making sure it's going to work, not only for WASDA, but for the city as well. I think ultimately we're going to see a much better product up there. I understand that this next year is going to be difficult up there in the Frontier Village area as far as getting around, but I applaud the idea of just ripping the Band-Aid off in 1 year versus 2 years, and let's get this thing done and make transiting in and out of the Frontier Village area much more efficient. So, what are the questions City Council has?
I have a quick question. I may have missed. When does stage 3 begin, and when is the estimated date of completion?
Currently, we are scheduling to advertise stage 3 early next year. It's like February timeframe, mid-February, and the completion would be end of the year, which is December 31st.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sean.
Yeah, I have a question, Tess. Thank you for the presentation. When you were on slide 9 and you were discussing the roundabouts, I thought I heard you say that the smaller roundabout could actually be driven over.
Yes, that's correct.
Are there any specific concerns about that? Are there any plans to do anything to dissuade people from taking that specific action?
Yeah, so when I say driven, the grade will not be, it will be like raised. The circle will be raised like traffic apron. So smaller vehicles, will not drive on it. I mean, I think that raised curb will discourage from, smaller vehicles drive on them. But the bigger trucks, since they need this wide turning radius, they are okay to go over it. Did I answer your question? Or
so by bigger trucks, you're talking more about cargo trucks, delivery trucks, things like that, being able to drive
yes.
over.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And community transit buses will go across instead of around it, especially the RTX or
Yep.
RTX.
Yeah, whichever trucks whichever truck that do not make that turn, that trucks that need big radius, they can go over it. So it's kind of truck apron.
Councilmember Ted.
I know during the visioning meetings for this, that it was continually brought up by myself and several other people that on 91st heading north to put a free right turn lane onto the 204. Is there a reason why that was left out of this plan? Because that would really help that whole road and congestion there. And now would be the time to address that during this plan.
Yes, I heard about that one before too. Yeah, part of it, the project originally funded to address 9204 intersection only. So the budget is for 9204. Actually, it got bigger and went all the way to market because fixing just 9204 without fixing the market intersection wouldn't do any better. So so it's more of scope and budget issue. So that's why it was not part of the project.
Mayor and council, I've requested a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, so I'll make sure to get that out to all you guys.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tess? Yeah, I think it's my plan to just start doing that education from the city side. From this point forward, letting folks know there's gonna be some disruptions next year, find alternate routes, do what you can to try to alleviate the congestion that's obviously gonna be up there during the construction zone time. So we'll start that marketing campaign from the city standpoint, and then we'll obviously have it in conjunction with WASDOT as well. All right.
Yep.
Tess,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Thank you, your crew for your work on this. And we'll move on to our next guest business item, which is from Doug Levy, and that's a presentation on our state and federal priorities for 2022.
Thank you, everyone.
So good evening, everybody. I'm Doug Levy, and I'm pleased to be here in this building. I have not been here for a council meeting before, so this is fantastic. I think I'm going to have some tag team help from Kelly here to go over the draft 2022 state and federal priorities. Before I do that, just to note that when we provided this information to you, we are going to go off the Cliff Notes PowerPoint tonight, but you do have a fuller draft of the agenda that has more of the, what we would call the support and close items. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to refer to that. Obviously, I'm happy to take your questions at the close of this as well. So maybe go into the next page. Thank you, Helen. So we had in prior years done just a state legislative priorities agenda for the city. And in 2019, we started broadening that, just recognizing some of the issues that were at work at the federal level and giving you a sense of priorities both at the state and federal level. So we continued that with this document. Maybe framing up the legislative session in Olympia that's going to occur. It's going to be what we call a short session. So in even numbered years, the legislature only goes for 60 days rather than the 105 they do in an odd numbered year. So this will be a short session. And what that means for the state's budgets, remember they have three: operating, capital, and transportation. Typically, these are supplemental years where the budgets don't go through a big rewrite or reopening. So it's much more of a fine tuning, much like you might do with your budget adjustments. In terms of what's going to happen, is it going to be in person or virtual? I'm going to give you my best guess because we're waiting for more formal decisions, but talking to a number of members, I think it'll be somewhat like what you're experiencing tonight, a bit of a hybrid, where we'll have the members perhaps in Olympia for at least a period of time or for certain votes, but external stakeholders would be more coming in virtually, and the hearings will be done virtually. So that's what we think we're going to see with the 2022 session. Obviously, we'll get that nailed down in the next couple of months. And just a reminder, we won't see this really take effect in 2022, but more the next year. But remember that after each 10-year census update, the state does a whole redistricting process. And so the maps for 49 legislative districts and all our state's congressional districts are redrawn to account for the population growth while there's been one map that was proposed that would have redrawn Lake Stevens into a different district, I think the larger likelihood is that you will remain in the 44th legislative district. And there doesn't seem to be any doubt that you will remain in the first congressional district. So obviously we'll wait to see how those finalize later in the year, but that seems to be the trend lines. Next slide, please. So some big issues we will be keeping our eye on in the session to come. First of all, we have a hot off the press on this first bullet. You know, we had been anticipating that there was at least the potential of a special session in November to go in and deal with transportation. You know, our own senator who chairs the committee on the Senate side has worked for a few sessions on what he calls the Forward Washington proposal. The House has been working on something they call Miles Ahead Washington. They didn't come to any kind of closure in the 2021 regular session, decided to try and negotiate for a possible special session. Today, we got word that is almost surely not going to happen. And so it really sends the playing field into 2022. So we've sort of accounted for that in this document that we'll go over with you. And then the operating budget, it's interesting, you know, almost 2 years ago, we were talking about possible huge challenges for the state on the operating budget side. Of course, COVID came along. The state's operating budget is in a much better place as we start to recover, albeit Councilmember Frederick giving us a good reminder, we're not there quite yet. But as we start to recover, as the economy gets better, as revenues come back into the state, the last budget projection showed that the state is actually expecting nearly $1 billion more for the remainder of this 21-23 biennium. And again, nearly $1 billion more in the 23-25 biennium that would be coming up next year. There are going to be some legal challenges on certain actions that the state took in 2021 that the legislature took. Principally, there is a legal challenge to a capital gains tax that was enacted in 2021. So we'll see how that plays out. As you well know, and looking at your agenda for later tonight, all of the issues around housing and homelessness, all those challenges remain, you know, very acutely in front of the legislature. And hearing from the good folks at the food bank tonight, we know that there's continually going to be people who are struggling. So those issues are going to remain front and center. And then we know that there's probably going to be up to 4 different bills that are looking to make some technical fixes to some of the policing reform bills that were passed in 2021. There were a whole slew of them, and I think most of them will stay enacted as they have been, but there are a few that are going to be revisited in 2022. And then at the federal level, I think you can read the headlines as well as I can, but we're still sort of on hold as Congress considers a very major infrastructure package and what's called the reconciliation bill. Those things are pending and negotiations are hot and heavy. There had been a very big battle over whether the debt ceiling was going to get raised at the end of September. Congress did something it's sort of famous for doing. It kicked the can a couple of months, so that decision is off until early December. And then we'll show you later on the federal priorities, but one of the things we had some direction from the mayor on is to at least do some evaluation of whether some brownfield revitalization funding for the old landfill site might be worth some feasibility work. Next slide, please. So our first cut at the priorities, remember, ultimately we want this to belong to the mayor and council and be something you are comfortable with. So this is for us to get it in front of you tonight and then bring back for final approval in the next couple of weeks. But our cut at it is to again present you the notion of transportation infrastructure as a priority. We've been pushing for a long time for the funding, for example, to actually complete the US 2 project, both capacity and replacement of the trestle structure. We have a number of projects on 20th and Main and 16th in the Northeast Centennial Trail Connector and the South Lake Stevens Road Trail, taking that popular trail and extending it. We have those on lists in both the House and Senate, but we don't have anything unless there's a package enacted. So we have that as something to continue to push. We've talked in most of our annual agendas about efforts around revenue relief. One of the things we have proposed here is just at least exploring and starting the discussion around a possible 1% local option marijuana tax that could be put on manufacturers and processors. And in the case of a city like yours, where there's a precious finite amount of manufacturing land, right now it doesn't make a lot of sense to take that up with processors. But if there's some options for you, maybe it would be a better fit for the industrial site. On the quality of life side, I mentioned to you that the legislature is not going to do big reopenings of the budget, but they are likely to do capital budget that will do some bonding and allow for some small scale projects if they're time sensitive, if there's an emergent nature to them. And I think mayor and staff feel like we have one such project, and that's the Cedarwood Clubhouse, and trying to make some emergency repairs to that. I believe the city has some designs on ultimately making that a community youth center for a lower income area. So that's one we're proposing to take a run at, a $250,000 request in the 2022 capital budget. Another item we've been working on is what's known as Doxxing, which is where local officials, elected officials, state officials become victims of malicious information, personal information being spread over the internet. And that's actually one of those things that unfortunately has a bipartisan tint to it. Whether you're on one end of the spectrum or the other, we can point to examples of folks having been victims of that. And so we are working with the Anti-Defamation League, Representative Lovick, Representative Goodman, and others on a bill that would at least give folks who are victims a chance to seek out a civil remedy. And then I mentioned the policing reform bills. We think there's going to be proposed language changes stemming from primarily two of the bills that were passed in 2021, House Bill 1054 around tactics, and House Bill 1310 defining and setting up some protocols around use of force. So we want to keep a close eye on that. And I will share that the chief has been involved very intimately in some of the discussions with Representatives Lovick and Goodman in particular. And I know the mayor had a chance, as well as I did, to be part of a recent meeting with Representative Jesse Johnson, who's from down in the Federal Way area. So we'll keep a close eye on all those. Next slide, please. So that's our, that would be our top priority items that would be things we'd be very actively involved in for Lake Stevens and the Lake Stevens community. On the, the ones that we call support, oppose, or track monitor, remember those tend to be things led by or steered by others, with our city jumping in to help support or help oppose or what have you. The longer agenda I referred to has more of these, but just calling out some of the highlights from that longer list. The legislature had enacted what was known as the Blake Bill in 2021, pivoting off a state Supreme Court decision and treating drug offenses very differently than had been done in the past. And that leaves some real funding needs for things like mental health, for things like drug courts and therapeutic courts. So we want to be supportive of efforts to try and better address the funding needs. And when we talked about this, I think the chief made the point that we are actually part of a $4.5 million grant effort that's underway right now involving Everett and Marysville. So all the more reason to want to see this robustly funded if possible. A city considerably to the south of us, Des Moines, has brought forward the idea of working with legislators on some better crackdowns on catalytic converter thefts. You know, if I were in front of you several years ago, we were talking a lot about rapid jumps in metal thefts. Now the new trend is catalytic converter thefts, and a lot of law enforcement agencies are seeing real spikes in that. So we are likely to see some legislation around trying to crack down on that growing trend. And then we're probably going to see a lot of debate in the legislature on what's called the missing middle, or efforts to require more density throughout all zones of cities across the state, including single family zones. The key there is going to be, you know, how much of that should the legislature be mandating versus how much should it be left to local discretion. Obviously, our strong preference has always been to let folks like you make those decisions and not folks hundreds of miles away. And, you know, we know that you're doing a lot of work already to add density to the single family zones throughout most of the city. Similar story on accessory dwelling units, or what we've shorthanded here as ADUs. There have been bills for the last few sessions where some groups want to see that be much more micromanaged at the state level. I think local governments have tended to say, we are believers in these things. We want to make the thoughtful effort at our level to do it and give us the discretion to do so. That'll be another debate in 2022. The one we were very supportive of in 2021 didn't quite get over the finish line, but Representative Wicks from the 38th district next to us has had a bill to give local parks agencies a new tool that they can take to their voters, a new 1/10 of 1 cent sales tax bill for local parks agencies. We want to be very supportive of that. I think that as the mayor is putting in front of you some options on how to better address the funding needs for your parks and trails. And then we know that there's also going to be legislation in 2022 to streamline the way transportation benefit districts are established and reauthorized. You all as a council had some considerable discussion about transportation benefit districts. My understanding is you're not quite there yet, but maybe a few years down the road. And so we're figuring that if there is legislation to make that process a bit easier, we want to be supportive of it and make it an easier tool for you to think about going forward. Next slide, please. And then quickly ticking off some of the federal items. Again, one of our top priorities has been scouring for funding at all levels for US2. And in the infrastructure package that is pending, there is a little bit of money that Congressman Larson and others worked on for US2, not a ton, but obviously that continues to be a top priority. Another priority is just supporting these infrastructure packages that are pending, estimated to bring about $1 billion over the next 5 years of formula funding for the state. So that could be very significant. And the next one down is a carryover. We've been very supportive of efforts by Senator Cantwell and Congresswoman Delbene in particular to add funding to the low-income housing tax credit program. In our state, that then gets managed by the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, and they offer 4% and 9% tax credits to both nonprofit and private builders who are doing affordable housing projects. And then the next one down is on grant funding, obviously. Oops, excuse me, I skipped the COVID one. This is just to note the fact that Congress did take action on the American Rescue Plan Act. You all in Lake Stevens are getting a direct allocation of, I think, somewhere a little north of $9 million. And I know you're in the middle of looking at that spending plan for it. And I see an agenda item later on tonight, but this is to acknowledge that that's there and that, you know, the city's going through all that planning and outreach with the public. And then we've had this item as an annual, but on all these areas of grant funding, this alphabet soup of FEMA, which is Federal Emergency Management Agency, and JAG is Justice Assistance Grants, but it's really meant to show you that we want to just be attuned to all the possibilities that are out there for federal funding that we can compete for. And then a couple of last items. One is to join many other local governments across the nation in trying to make sure that things like municipal tax exempt bonds stay in their tax exempt status. That's been under some jeopardy in recent years. And then the last one that I previewed for you, I think, talking with the mayor and staff, is the idea of at least evaluating whether there might be some benefit in going after brownfield money for the old landfill site. And I think staff talked about maybe that would start with a feasibility study to see if that made sense and if a brownfield grant could yield enough money to help. So that takes you through the list on the state and federal fronts, and I am more than happy to take any questions you may have. And again, we would bring this forward for final approval in a couple weeks from now. But I appreciate your time taking questions.
I have
Yes.
two quick questions. Regarding the public safety, the malicious doxing issue, is that specific to elected officials at having that civil recourse?
It can be other local officials as well. And, as an example, Councilmember Jorstad, there was an assistant secretary of state who was in charge of the state's election process, who was a victim.
Okay.
And that person is not elected, but would be have that civil remedy recourse. So,
Okay.
good question.
Great, thank you. And then one other quick question regarding the long-term care plan. I know we don't need to go into detail. I'm just wondering if you have any sense of whether or not that's going to be on the table and looked at.
Oh, absolutely. And we
Okay.
do have it in the longer agenda. I didn't call it out here
Okay.
because it's not necessarily a city issue per se, but we did support the motion of, for example, giving people more time to seek out non-state options. And there's actually also an initiative that has been filed and is in signature collection mode. And we will find out in early December if that initiative, I believe it's 1436. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's what it is. That initiative would be an initiative to the legislature. So if they get their signatures by early December, it goes to the 2022 legislature, which has a choice of enacting it outright. That's rarely done. Or amending it and presenting the public with a couple options. That's rarely done. Or sending it to the voters. That's most frequently done with initiatives to the legislature. So again, if it gets signatures, you would most likely see that under November 2022.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions for Doug?
Yeah, I got one on the low income housing tax credit. Was that the tax credit 4%, 9%? It's on property tax?
No, these are tax credits on it's on bond financing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm not an expert on how the Housing Finance Commission does that work, but it's not a new property tax. It's a tax credit against other financing tools.
Thank you.
Member Dixon.
Yes. So first of all, you were wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. But I want to say, you said something about Representative Del Benny that got me thinking. Is there ever a time where I think of you working with the state legislature, do you ever cross the path into the Congress?
Yeah, actually, we've had a few really good discussions with Congresswoman Del Benny and Congressman Larson, for that matter, who doesn't quite come over the bridge, but he gets pretty close and has some Lake Stevens heritage in his background. So we do try and do that, particularly when the members are outside of their districts, for example. Now that they're online available to us, we definitely had those discussions. And just to give you one example, I've worked on 20th and Main funding at the federal level with Congresswoman Del Bene, and that's still pending, knock on wood, in an appropriations bill.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Doug, always appreciate your hard work. It's been a pleasure working with you this whole time. You always do great for the city of Lake Stevens. Thank you for your work.
Thank you very much, Councilman.
Any other comments? Gary looks pensive. No?
Well, I'd also
Just
like
move
to
along. Just keep this thing going.
I'd also like to say thanks to Doug. We've been a part of several different discussions in other areas, and especially transportation with Skit and others like that. And the thing that I appreciate about Doug is you can bring what's going on down there to the level that we can understand what the heck is going on. So I've always appreciated the way you can cut to the chase and tell us, the ins and outs of who's doing what and why. So that's, it's always been interesting, and I learned something from you every time. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Great. Doug, appreciate your time. Great work on this, and we'll keep moving forward. So with that, we'll move to a consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have a second. Do I have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, can I get a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Hearing no opposed, consent agenda passes. We will move to the first action item of I. Amendment to the interlocal agreement for Alliance for Affordable Housing for us.
All right, good evening, council. Good to be back with you again. Starting off with a pretty easy item with you tonight. So the city of Lake Stevens and many other Snohomish County jurisdictions entered into an interlocal agreement to create the Alliance for Affordable Housing, which is associated with the Housing Authority of Snohomish County. And they have a permanent staff person that helps with demographic issues and really being that voice for affordable housing in the community. Just recently, the city of Monroe would like to join that consortium. And so the ILA amendment before you just recognizes the addition of the city of Monroe. And there were a couple of house cleaning items that were also within this interlocal amendment. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions. And otherwise, I would ask for the council to approve this tonight.
I do have a question. Thank you, Russ. Having read through this agreement, we talk about affordable housing all the time. And the basis, I get this is a consortium of municipalities that are trying to provide affordable housing. But the biggest component of affordable housing is the lack of supply. I do not see any language within this document that will ask this entity to advocate to the county for any kind of expansion of our urban growth boundary areas. I think that's really a missing component of this. If they're going to advocate for affordable housing, they need to advocate for everything that is trying to get at affordable housing. So I would ask that we ask them to the table when we are talking about urban boundaries that need to be expanded. It's simple, supply and demand. So hopefully we can do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to have that conversation. Councilmember Jorstad is also your liaison to that group, so we could both have that conversation with the Alliance and get some feedback from them and bring back some
I would
comments to
appreciate that.
council.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Mr. Collier would be happy to be a part of that discussion and come and present information and have a dialogue around that to council. So I'm happy to reach out and request that.
Is this entity involved in Snohomish County tomorrow at all?
They're not. They give presentations and updates to Snohomish County tomorrow, but they are outside of that group.
Why is that?
Again, this is the Snohomish County Tomorrow model has many facets, but this group has not been put under that umbrella at this time. So
Yet this group is the advocate for affordable housing. And that's probably our biggest problem in this county right now. Seems to me they need to be at the table.
I do think that there are members that belong to both. I would have to go through and look at the Snohomish County Tomorrow roster. So I think there's information that flows between the two, but I think that's a good question. Find out why the relationship isn't more formal. So I'm happy to can do a little research on that too as well. That's helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great. It just seems like there's a real disconnect in that regard. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Who is the chair and vice chair of Snohomish County Tomorrow now?
Chair is Nate, well, it's Nate, Barb, and me are some chair.
For the executive,
What's that?
for the executive.
Correct. On the executive committee. Any other questions for us? Can I get a motion on this action?
I move.
Move to approve the amendment to the interlocal agreement of the Alliance of Housing, Affordable Housing. You
Second.
should have done it because it would have been.
All right, so I have a motion, I have a second,
Second.
and I have a second from Councilmember Dickinson. So with that, is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We moved action, or we moved item K to an action item as well, so we'll go to that one next. Barb, you have that?
No, it's fine. Thank you, council. We had brought this forward previously in our budget slideshow to give you an understanding of what was being requested and recommended of the ARPA funding. This resolution does spell out the acceptance of ARPA funds as well as the available and allowable uses. There was an attachment sent out. It was missed the first day we actually sent that out. There have been no changes since this was brought forward to council. The staff report does summarize the authorized uses and breaks it down: staffing and related equipment costs, protective PPEs and disinfection supplies, technology upgrades, direct assistance. This does include the food bank as well as senior center and something else in there too, sorry. And then the stormwater projects and the storm and surface water equipment and park restoration projects and the economic development. I do have it actually outlined in the staff report, but I did not leave it too detailed in the attachment. So if you have any questions, the mayor and city administrator have been involved with this significantly and can answer any additional questions that you might have.
I have a question.
Good.
Thank you for the summary. This is super helpful just to kind of see it all in one place. Both the approved uses and the recommended uses. One of the approved uses is the assistance to small businesses or nonprofits. And I know that we used a significant percentage of our CARES Act dollars to assist small businesses. I was curious to know if there was any work done to determine if we have any urgent needs still in Lake Stevens in regards to small business. I didn't see that as one of the recommended authorized uses. I just want to make sure that's something that we've explored and that we don't have any urgent need.
From my experiences in talking with Chamber and being involved with Rotary, I have not seen that. It's one of the reasons why we were talking about doing some grant money to doing individual grants, but then we saw this opportunity with the small business relief plan through retail strategies that would really benefit all the businesses in the city, and they could all use that as a resource, and so that's why I'm proposing that.
Maybe I get into that slightly different way as well. So what we would do with these newer dollars is, for example, they would be able to help businesses that went through COVID advance to more of a virtual platform. So this group we're looking at could help develop their websites, their strategies for more of that online component that they may not have been able to do themselves. So rather than the direct support for PPEs or that type of equipment, it really helps them, again, take their business to a new direction that they may not have been able to previously.
Great. Thanks, Russ. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor Daley.
What other questions we have?
Well, actually, one, are you looking for a singular motion on this or two individual motions?
I think a singular motion would work on it. Yeah. But why would there be two motions? What do you
Well, there's
think?
two specific
We have
actions.
two actions on there, top of the page.
The second one is the early recruitment of the risk manager. We don't anticipate hiring that position until 2022, so it is included in the 22 budget. But in case we actually find somebody sooner than that, this will give an authorization to go ahead and move forward with that position as well.
Yeah. Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, for the sake of transparency, can we not see this up on the screen for people to see what dollars we're talking about?
Sure.
I just feel like I would be happier. I've seen it. I know what it says, but it's not visible here. That's just my question, or it's not on my computer either, so.
And it is on the council packet available online as well. So.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
What are the questions?
Do we know when the funds would be received?
Which funds?
Do we know when we would receive the ARPA funds?
So we already have half of them.
Oh, okay.
And then we get the other half
Early 2022.
early 22. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Guess I'll just weigh in. I just want to thank the mayor and the city staff for the diversity, I guess, and how those projects are spread out in terms of meeting the needs of various groups in the city. I see it as a thoughtful and reflective, identifying those needs and addressing those in an effective way. And so thank you for that.
All right. I would like to make a motion that we authorize resolution 2021 TAC 15, accepting coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds, ARPA grant funds, and authorizing the use of those funds. Additionally, authorize the early recruitment of the risk manager with anticipated start date of January 1, 2022.
Second.
Yes, I have a motion on the floor as well.
Who was the second? Sorry. Oh,
And we have a second as well. And is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Excellent. So that passes, and I would just like to note in there that does provide a $500,000 portion to the food bank, which is exciting. Let's keep that moving. Thank you for your work. All right, so with that, we will move to item J, which is 2022 preliminary budget discussion. I'm going to leave this discussion, and I'm going to leave it pretty open. If we could throw up the priorities for the budget. We presented the budget, the preliminary budget last Tuesday? Like, I'm completely lost track of days.
Oh, I know. No, I know.
Was that last Tuesday? Okay. Sorry. So those are my budget priorities for this next year. I'll speak through them again just for those in the audience sake. American Public Works Association being number one priority for this next year, getting that accreditation will help the city move forward and in technology and in policies and procedures, and set us up for success in the future. just completing the projects that we have in process. Again, taking a little step back this next year so that we can work on that accreditation. As well as streamlining our citywide processes, working on that GIS enterprise system. And actually, you know, what came out of that meeting today was also a really good discussion on information management, right? Like our internal documents and how we do business internally. Really, our discussion really brought that out as well, that's going to be integral in creating this GIS system. Strategic staffing, providing the staffing that will support moving the city forward in those areas above. Also looking at enhanced transportation program funding and enhanced park recreation program funding, mostly in that area being the parks director position, starting probably mid-year. So those are my priorities. If you reflect back on the budget and what we spoke about last Tuesday, no real changes. So I think what I would do is open up the floor to you all to see what questions you have or suggestions, somewhere we need to go back and take another look.
So one of the things that I'd also like to point out is we're looking to see if we do not need to have Monday night workshop on this. So if you do have questions and we need to get those answered, then we need to get it done tonight, hopefully, but it doesn't mean that we are not going to have that meeting if we decide we need it. So that's something that we're going to try to assess by the end of this discussion.
If there's a specific area, we can bring the slide back up, go through it.
Have we made any progress on the recruitment of police officers?
On the improvement of,
Recruitment of police officers?
I would have to ask Chief Aziza.
He's on the line.
Is he on? Chief?
I'm here,
Yeah.
Mayor. Am I getting backseated here? Doesn't everybody hear me?
We can hear you.
So I have one right now in lateral, processing the background right now. That's the only one I have. All of my entry level applicants have been either disqualified and didn't pass. So we're gonna get with HR here I think next week. We have a schedule to get our recruiting and look at a recruitment plan and move forward to get our next list off of our public safety testing for entry levels. The only bad thing that I just found out is our academy is backfilled. It's about an 8 to 10 month wait to get somebody into our academy.
So just so you understand the ramifications of that, if you find a new entry, you've got to hire them now so someone else doesn't hire them. Jeff and I did talk this morning that if we were presented with that situation, that we would use that new hire for community outreach, working with different groups, doing productive things other than reading RCWs for 8 months, because I've done that. That's not fun.
I guess then, given that, I still feel a little hesitant about the positions not being budgeted until I think June or July 1 or whenever it is. What are the ramifications of moving that to a potential? I know it's not likely, but you had said when we met last week that if you found someone, if magically there were all these opportunities, that we would go ahead and hire. So what would be the ramifications of moving that in the budget to be able to be used as of January versus July? Am I making sense?
Well, I think that the ramifications are that, you have to kind of rework the budget a little bit in order to make that happen. However, if we do a budget the way that they've set it out, and that does happen, we just do a budget amendment, and make it happen.
Okay. It's easier to do an amendment.
Yeah.
Versus putting it in
If
there.
it's important, they already know, they know that it's important to us to do this front loaded if we could. I think that the budget is written in a good way for us to be able to accomplish what we want to, especially under the hiring problem we're having anyway. So I think that if we had a good candidate pop up for one of these things, and let's just say the police chief came and said, look, I've got 3 levels, I can get them right now. We just do a budget amendment, and fix it.
Okay, all right.
And that's, that's our purview. That's exactly what we do.
And technically, all of the positions that are in the budget, even if they're budgeted mid-year, they are FTEs in the budget day one. So it is there. It's just the funding behind it.
Sure.
Isn't sitting in the budget, but can easily be moved forward.
Okay, thanks, Barb.
I just want to just take a step back before we get too deep in the conversation about specific positions and really just talk about the budget priorities, if I may. And Mayor, you made your comments in both our workshops and you said them again today. One, I want to talk about taking a step back and really focusing on completing those capital projects that are already in process. I think from a fiscal responsibility point, I think that's a really prudent step. And I don't think that's necessarily been acknowledged as much as it could have. Also want to talk about the significance of accreditation for our public works staff. Accreditations are not often well understood. There's a significant commitment in terms of time and often finances to get to the accreditation, but it also allows you to access best practices and make sure that you're in alignment with those best practices. And in many cases, it's an issue of morale for staff. It's a confidence builder for your leaders. And I think that combined as an investment with taking a step back on capital projects and focusing on those things we have to do are really good steps in the long-term health of being able to put the city in a position to effectively manage growth down the road. And I just think that needed to be said in that way. So I just want to share that before we get too far down.
Thank you.
Well, just to echo on what Councilmember Frederick shared, we saw a similar process happen with our police department and how the city council authorized the necessary funds to allow that to happen. And we took a good department and advanced it to now it's fully accredited. And it's really an outstanding department. It's helped keep our community one of the safest community in Snohomish County, one of the safest in the state. And so providing that proper funding, helps with morale and everything else as Councilmember Frederick identified. So, all the projects we have going on here in the city, I appreciate the mayor and others recognizing that and making that a high priority. That being said, I know that we had a lot of asks for the budget in terms of dollar value, in terms of equipment and stuff, but I just hope that we can find a way to be judicious stewards of our resources. I frequently hear from our constituents that they don't want taxes raised or fees or whatever, basically taking money out of their pocket. And so I hope that we can just be judicious as we can as we move forward.
Right.
I would like to address that, Councilmember Ewing. We have actually discussed that, and we do agree with you that we need to look at our line item by line item, and look at some savings. We did actually recently, my new finance manager was looking at some of the costs, being new eyes, and saying, why do we spend so much on communication? And so it's kind of looking at these different things. Do we need cell phones and desk phones and some of these things? And so it is going through in this next year, looking line item by line item, what is there that we can potentially save? Do we have, technology creep? Kind of what we're doing right now, looking at everything that we have and kind of consolidating down and looking at what we actually need to do our jobs efficiently. So we do recognize that.
Good. Thank you for your efforts there.
Thanks, Barb. That's great to hear, especially when we're looking at our budget.
Any other comments? Barb, can you pull up our timeline on this? See what our next step is.
Here is where you are.
Okay, so so our next step, unless you want to do a Monday, November 1st workshop, our next step would be the first public hearing on November 9th. That would be where we're at on the calendar.
So council, what do you think? Do we need another workshop for this budget on November 1st?
I think that we could skip November 1st, and if we had any specific questions, we could still reach out to the staff and have any questions or any other concerns we might have, reach out to staff.
I agree with that.
And by no means is the budget passed by this. It still does go through your public hearing process, and you'll hear from your constituents and can make other recommendations at that point as well.
How is this budget being published, Barb, for the public to comment on?
It actually is just going out to the Herald. We are required to put it in the Herald 2 weeks in a row prior to the first public hearing. And so it actually does address both public hearings. And right now we have them both as hybrid, so virtual and in person, just in case something happens and we have to have it hybrid. I have been having some trouble getting it online, getting my PowerPoints and everything online. I'm working on that. I was having some issues with that over the last couple of days trying to get those up there. So those will get up there, but that is the actual process.
Okay, I would encourage that we maybe have, I realize you have to do a public notice, but I think we're all finding out not a lot of people read the Herald. And, you know, those things sometimes just not get noticed by the public. So I guess I would, every effort we can to get it on our website,
Facebook page.
Facebook or
Yeah.
something to advertise, we have a budget, we're looking for public comment. I think that would be helpful.
I'll work with Dawn and we'll get a news release on our website and on our social media channels.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It'd be really great for the public to be able to look at this and give comment by the November 9th.
And Barb, I appreciate written comment, you know, people weigh in and specifically because it's, you know, people do, you know, verbal comment, that's great. I said, but the written comment ahead of time is helpful for me. So I can go and look at what their comments are, because in real time, it's a little bit difficult to do. And so if I have questions about those comments, I can reach out to staff and get clarification. But I would also like to make sure that it's easily accessible. I was trying to access an agenda for another meeting that I should be attending, and it was very difficult to access. Even from the email that I was sent, I couldn't access the agenda. So I'd hate for a constituent to have, and it's not our cities, it's from an outside entity. I'd hate to have that happen to one of our citizens that's trying to access that and they have difficulty doing that, get frustrated with that. And to Councilmember Peter Shagan, there's only 1,500 subscribers on Sunday in Lake Stevens to the Herald, so that's a really small number. And that's for the entire 98258 zip code. So that includes people that have all the way up to Arlington that have a Lake Stevens 98258 address.
Do you know if that includes digital subscriptions?
That does not.
Okay.
There's a slightly smaller number that does digital. But it's not great.
Okay, so I think we have some direction moving forward. Great. Appreciate everyone's comments and appreciate everyone's acknowledgement of the staff doing some great work on this budget. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We are adjourning. I appreciate everybody's work. Make sure we get out and help your neighbor and your community, and we'll keep getting better every day.